Okay, I think we are now recording. Okay. Next up, WCMS transition. Here's the state of where things are at. I note this because I want to acknowledge everyone who has been working in this space and the hard work that you've been putting in. We're making headway to transition away from WCMS. And that is no simple task for lots of folks out there. I just want to acknowledge the hard work and say that that is appreciated. And I think the end result for us all, us collectively at UCSC, is we're going to have a better digital ecosystem moving forward from here. And with that, we'll move on to a component where we're going to talk about quick layout or full page patterns. And we'll bring in Rob Knight once again, who's from University Advancement, who has already been speaking. But Rob is going to show us some ways that you can fast forward your design on your pages in the new WordPress theme. Rob, did you want me to share, or do you got this?
Yeah, if you could, I apologize that I don't have that available on myself. Um, as we've shared with you tools for building your sites in WordPress, one of those has been patterns. Patterns are collections of blocks oriented around displaying content, certain kinds of content in a certain way. Patterns are a great way to get started quickly with a certain kind of content if you know how you want it to look or you know what kind of blocks you want to use to build it. Um, it's mostly been focused though on content within a page. And Adam and Lisa Nielsen have had conversations with folks who are saying, "Hey, what if I want to create my about page and I don't want to have to start from scratch, or I have a kind of page that is common on every site, and I don't want to start from zero." So we added what we're calling full page patterns or page example patterns. Adam's going to that portion of the pattern library now. And what that is a complete page, start to finish, top to bottom, as a pattern. So when you go to that example page pattern area and click on one of those, it just immediately drops an entire page worth of patterns and collections of content onto the page. It can be a great starting point if you know that you're creating, an about page and it's not too complicated and it doesn't deviate too much from what you've seen on other sites and you just want to put your content in there. It's a great starting point. All of this stuff is, of course, just WordPress blocks, so you can pick and pull, remove as needed, change things up. Ideally, you should change things up because this is just stock content and sample information. But this is free for you to use and free to, it's like all patterns. It's a way of getting started quickly on building, and it's a way of building entire pages pretty quickly. If you have suggestions for additional example pages, um, patterns that you might want to see in here, this is just a starting point for us. We can happily add more if we get feedback that there are other types that you'd want to see.
Thank you. I'll also note these will be in your UCSC WordPress site
Yes.
under that space that Rob had just mentioned. And on each of those pages, there's a little call out for you too, as the person who's the web editor, about instructions about how to use some of these patterns or some recommendations that we've put together to help you discover those things. Of course, you would want to remove the instructional content once you would go to publish that site. But these will all be linked up to have more instruction to help you out.
And my apology, this is coming in the next theme release. So they're not in the theme just yet. They'll be in the next theme release, which will come out sometime in December. And we'll, of course, let you know when that does come out. There's a few other things to be included in that theme release, so it's not quite ready yet. But this will be in the next theme release.
Tony posts in chat, can we request page types? It's one of those things that will be heavily used on our pages, will likely be duplicated by other units. Yeah, great use case scenario. There's nothing preventing you from creating your own patterns in the sites. And if you have developed one, let's say like you have ended up creating a page that you think is a good template that other units will want to use, You create that as a pattern for yourself, let us know about it. And that's something that we could help distribute to other folks. There's going to be thresholds of like what we're going to actually use in there. But like if there is something that is of high value to many people, that's kind of a use case scenario that we're looking for. All right. We will keep moving here. And we're going to talk about redirects. As folks are getting close to launching sites, the question of redirects comes into play. And there's lots of thoughts that you should be thinking about redirects, when to use, how to use, what to use. And with that, we'll bring in Tom Gardner from the ITS Web Services team to talk a little bit more about the thought of redirects. And Tom, I'll let you share screen here if you need to.
Okay, can you turn on screen sharing, please?
That's the other important part of it. Yes. Go for it.
Okay. So we're going to use a simple example here, and I'm sure you can all see my screen now. I'm using the Silicon Valley website as an example. It's a site that has, I think, about 10, 15 pages in it. It was previously in WCMS. And so they have a couple of redirects that I'll use as examples. Okay. So, and before I get into their redirects, I want to point out that if you have a WCMS site that has a domain name and we'll use like apo.ucsc.edu for academic personnel office, and now you're going to become academicpersonnel.ucsc.edu, and you're changing your website's name, we take care of that redirect for you. Okay. It's a global redirect so that if anyone, when the academic personnel office launches their website, if anyone goes to apo.ucsc.edu, they'll automatically get redirected to academicpersonnel.ucsc.edu. So that's that global redirect that we take care of. And now, for example, for the Silicon Valley, because they were in WCMS, we put in a special redirect because in WCMS, there was the concept of if you had if you were in there an about directory, you had an index.html page. But now in WordPress, you just have an about. It's not really a directory, but the URL would be, siliconvalley.ucsc.edu/about/. Whereas in WCMS, it had the index.html. This redirect takes care of that for you. And we will add that. We do that at launch time. Also, redirects do not happen until launch time. You can start putting in redirects before you launch, but you cannot test them. They do not take effect until your site goes live. Okay. And then for the example here is that in WCMS, they had a directory called Bowers Building. But now that moved to facility. So they put in a redirect so that anything, and they use this wildcard character, anything in Bowers Building. And for example, if we go in here, any of these pages that were in their WCMS site, if someone goes to them, they will be redirected to this facility. Okay. Now, one point I want to mention is you could put an asterisk here, but they did not move over all these pages into their site. So we did not include that. I'm not including that asterisk there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And now to step back to think, what pages should I redirect? How do I determine that? One way to do that is to use analytics. So in this case, this is Site Improves analytics for the Silicon Valley campus. And you can see that that facility URL is the third most trafficked URL on their site. Similar to using Google Analytics, you can use either one. If your site or you do not have access to analytics, put in a SlugHub ticket, and we will happy to grant that for you. Okay, so that's it in its simplest. And I also want to point out, like, how many should you do? So an example is the Baskin School of Engineering is a big, high profile, highly trafficked site with a lot of pages. And they only have 15 redirects. So they did not put in, they kind of just put it in mainly for folders, but not for they did not get very granular with their redirects. And that is what we recommend, because too many redirects can get you into trouble. And I will leave it at that and open it up for questions and comments, because I know people like Rob and some others here are experts in redirects.
Hey, Tom, I'm going to hop in. I'm actually going to pause questions and comments and save that till the tail end of the conversation
Okay.
here. It's all right. Just so we can cut through the rest of the content that we have to cover today. But we will give time at the end of today's meeting to answer and talk more deeply about redirects. If that's all right with folks.
Sure.
So if you do have questions, queue them up. Feel free to drop them in chat and we can circle back to redirects. And we will keep moving along here with our content for today. And quick talk about paddings and margins and giving yourself, well, some space on your websites. For folks who can remember web design like this, maybe in chat, does this provoke any type of feeling?
Looks like Adam is frozen.
Uh-oh. It's tsunami.
It's the tsunami.
Oh,
Oh,
there you
no,
go.
we lost Adam.
All right. We can try to pinch hit what he was gonna say. Do you
Oh, he's
guys
back.
remember?
Adam, oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm back
Oh,
here.
back.
Sorry about that. Zoom just did like a reboot for me.
Okay, good. Welcome back. We were just gonna try and figure out how to soldier on without you.
Yes. So
I did want to point out real quick about that Yahoo page. That was once the most popular page on the entire internet.
That's right.
FYI.
Yeah. And when I was first building web pages at UCSC, I built things that looked like that back in 94, 95.
And probably some of us are still being asked to create portal web pages to this day, even though that model died with Yahoo in 2001 or even 99.
All right. Jason, you want to take it away? Do you have a share
Yeah.
capability?
Let me
Okay.
check. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
do. All right, so I'm going to talk about padding and margins. and I'm not a designer. I'm going to get into the mechanics of it, but I found this image just as I was preparing for this, the difference between padding and margin. If you got your content in here, the padding is the space, between the content and the element's border. So like if you've got an element that has like a background color to it, the padding will account for that. Whereas the margin is the space outside of the element's border. So it's separating it from the other element next to it. So I just thought this was a pretty good illustration of the difference between padding and margin. I've pulled up this sample page here with a bunch of lorem, and I haven't done anything to this page at all. And you'll notice that, we've already got padding and margins defaults for our headings and our paragraphs, and that's something that is already built in. But you'll notice I've got this 2-column element here that has some lorem in it that doesn't have any padding or margins in it. And I'm going to go and edit this page. It's being nice to me. So, okay, again, so I've got my columns here. I'm going to look at this right column here. If I just go ahead and add a background, it automatically will add some padding to it. Remember, the padding is the stuff inside the element. You can go into the dimensions section, and I'm in a column. You'll get the dimensions on a paragraph. You'll get the dimensions on a heading. Most blocks will have a dimensions option to them. So I'm just going to go into this paragraph column and pull in my dimensions. And so we've got padding and margin. I'm gonna activate both of them. And you'll know, and remember when I added that background color, it automatically added some spacing padding around the content. But chances are, when you activate the padding, it might be at 0, but it's not really at 0 because it's putting in some default. So you can actually zero it out. And I mean, it doesn't look great, but what I tend to do is if I want to start from scratch, I'll zero things out and start from there. That way I know that I'm starting from 0. But let me activate the margin as well. And this is a good example. If I increase the padding, top or bottom, you'll see that I'm getting both the content and the background. You can do it left or right too. Whereas if I increase the margin, see, so this is a paragraph that I'm adding a background to. So the margin is separating that paragraph from the dimensions of the column that is bounding it. So that's the example between, padding, margin. And you can go in and do that to any of your headings or your paragraphs. And again, when I want to add something, what I'll do is I'll just zero it out and it may or may not change, but that way I know that I'm at 0. And if I want to add a 1 or a 2 to it, I know that it's true. It's not pulling in the default dimensions. Now, the default dimensions might be exactly what you want, and you might not have to deal with it. But I can upgrade it. This isn't pretty, but so I've added margin to this column and not a lot of padding. I'll go back to my editor just to reiterate. The dimensions doesn't fly out at you immediately. So you'll see it here and there'll be a little plus. Another thing, if you get too far into the weeds, you can go and there's a reset all here, and that'll zero everything out. to back to normal. And again, when you reset all and you zero everything out, it's going to pull in those default dimensions that's already set up. And I'll update it. And there we have it. And so, you know, like what we were saying was, you know, back on that on the video that we watched at the beginning, you know, part of the content is adding space, and just like the Yahoo page that Adam showed, adding that space to give your content some breathing room helps to what is it? It's like content blindness. It helps to solve against content blindness, because if it's all jumbled up together, your eyeballs are just going to go right over it. So adding that breathing space into your content is helpful for people, for your
Jason,
users.
Can you do one thing?
Yeah.
Just so we can all visually see it. See how your columns block is just snug right up against the paragraph block above it? Can you add margin bottom to
Sure.
the...
So I can do it either way. I can add a margin bottom.
Actually, yeah, hold on. Hold
Okay.
on. Do it to the columns block itself.
So that I'll go into the columns here, and I think I want to add, let's go to my, let's do a little bit of top bottom padding, because padding is I'm separating my content from my element here from the top one. So I can add.
Ooh, can I?
Yeah, go for it.
You're separating an element from a separate and distinct element around it. Margin is what you want to
Margin.
use.
All right, let's go for margin.
Because these are two items that aren't connected to each other in any
Right.
way.
So let's go to my
separate
columns.
them with margin.
But I'm not getting a lot of.
That's block spacing.
Oh, duh. There we go.
There you go. Top and bottom margin.
Zero those out. And another thing, the defaults are to marry the top, bottom, and left and rights, but you can also you can do just top, just bottom, just left, or just right by selecting this fly out. I'll update it. And that's a little bit better. Like I said, I would need to play with this left column a little bit more, but that's kind of the default. And that's my spiel on padding and margins.
Thank you, Jason. So Jason alluded to, why is this important? Why do you need to create that white space or that breathing space from within your content? Well, we, kind of laughed at this example earlier. And Jason also alluded to the fact that there's this thing that people refer to as content blindness. When there's too much stuff to look at, you all of a sudden don't see anything, and you lose things that are important on your page. Like, it's very hard for me to suss out when I look at this page what's important and what I should be focusing on. From our video, we know that Nielsen Norman says people are looking to do something. They need to complete a task. This is obfuscating or making that task very difficult to do. And it's because everything is so densely packed into this example. Now, I don't want to trigger anyone here, but we will look at the tsunami map again, because actually in our last session, it was shown very visually how important this is when people are seeking for information and needing to find information. If you didn't hear yet, there was an earthquake off the California shore. The news alerts are coming in right now, and it's triggered a tsunami warning. This is literally happening right now. And as we were looking at this happened in the 10 o'clock hour, 10:44. We were trying to determine, okay, this says red, and is that, how important is that to me? Like, that seems important, but how would I know? And we look down here and there's kind of a key, and we're like, wait, is purple the threat, the most important thing to look at? Or is this red threat? And we sat there for a second and processed it and said, no, we think purple. And then we looked closer and said, oh, wait, this is for US and Canada. And that means, I think that means that this content right here is associated with each other. Yet, and it's not just padding, it's the overall design of this website. The importance of finding this information and not separating that out into a way that somebody can easily and quickly interpret what is like hypercritical information in this instance. But our websites are not, hypercritical information or security issues like that. There's a need to find information, and it was hard to do that. A very drastic example of how creating space in your content and layout can affect the information that people gather from your web content. Yeah, Rob.
And I would add to that what Adam's talking about and what we're talking about actually becomes really imperative at moments like this. If you think about how we all are, I know I'm this way too, when something like this happens, an earthquake, your frame of mind is different. Your perception is different. You're in emergency mode. You're in fight or flight mode. That's going to change how you interpret information. You're going to be quicker. You're going to be reading things faster. You may be skimming more. So another way of thinking about how you design your content is what is the frame of mind that somebody's going to be in when they get to this page. For those of you working on maybe the health center site or campus support services, when a visitor comes to those types of pages, they may be in a frame of mind that is not clear as normal as first thing in the morning after a cup of coffee. And so spacing, the ability to read, the ability to see the important information on a page becomes even more imperative. And that's part of our responsibility. We take that really seriously, especially on the campus homepage. With the choosing of the colors for the alert ribbon. When you see the alert ribbon across the top of the homepage, that yellow color, which is not a brand color, was chosen specifically for that reason, because it sticks out. It's different. We keep the text there short and sweet and make it a single link to go to somewhere else. All those are very deliberate choices, and it's another way of thinking about designing content is what frame of mind is your visitor going to be in when they come to your page.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Let's keep moving through our content here so we make sure we have some time for questions as we move forward. Acknowledging Julie's comment, yeah, that tsunami map is not accessible. Correct. And that needs some work. That is a federal map. And yeah. Let's talk about typography and case types. As you're designing pages, as you're getting closer to launching sites, lots of questions have come up about typography and case types and where you should be using what types of things. These are our recommendations. A guide just shared in our chat about how to use case types. And what is case types? If you're not familiar with, there are things like title case, sentence case, and all caps is a case type too. The only things that we're recommending should be all caps on your website is this navigation right up here. The only things that should be title case on your website is your page title. Everything else, we recommend using sentence case, which is just normal. Well, it's sentence case. And there's examples of this on the site here too. We ask you to abide by these things. These are style components, so we continue to have a similar look and feel to our UCSC websites. We've done these things based on UX principles as to what's a best practice. These are your best practices right here. We'll leave that at that. I want to do a call out. When we talk about design, you might be looking for ideas. How can I look to different websites to see how I might build my site? We're going to start calling out some folks who we think are doing great jobs of design at UCSC, including some reasons. Student of Success just launched a new website within the last month. It is studentsuccess.ucsc.edu. Highly recommend you check that out. And we're going to talk about why these are noteworthy examples and things to emulate. They created a very accessible website. They have an information architecture that's very task-based. Again, circling back to that video, people need to complete a task. How can we deliver that for them? They have a very simple navigation. There's not a ton of things going on here. So it's reduced the choices that people need to make, and it's simplified. And highly recommend looking at that site as a site that we can emulate. And we're going to keep looking for great examples of folks just like you who are creating UCSC websites, and we want to highlight those things. And we'll continue to do that moving forward. Case types. Feature requests, or when you would like to see something improved within the UCSC WordPress theme. I will share in chat the current state of feature requests. We think these are up to date at the moment. That's also the place that you can submit something. You're like, hey, we need to add this type of functionality. Can we do that? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no on those things. And there's reasons behind that, but we have a governance team that reviews all those feature requests. And we will respond to those as well. We've got a theme update coming out very soon. I'll actually kind of skip forward on this. You'll be emailed if you are in the UCSC WordPress theme about this update coming forward. And I wanted to give us the rest of today's time to Q&A. And I know we've got a couple questions in chat that we'll circle back to. But before we can break out here, I wanted to remind everyone our next meeting is actually going to be in January, probably late January. And we're going to talk about the new UCSC news site, specifically how you can use that and the UCSC news content block in your UCSC WordPress website. Rob, did you want to add anything else about January's get together?
Only that we're excited. The news center is finally on its path toward launch. We recognize that news has always had a lot of roots throughout the other websites and throughout the UCSC web presence. So that's part of why it's taken so long to get to this place. And we're just really excited. It's going to come with a block for all of you to use to put UCSC news on your websites. And yeah, it's exciting. It's going to enable us to do a lot more with our news content in addition to just the news block. So that's all coming in January.
Okay. With that, we'll pause for a moment here, and we're going to switch to Q&A. If you'd like to stick around for the Q&A, you are welcome to. If you would like 15 minutes back before you head out to lunch, you are welcome to do that too. If you do head out, I want to say thank you for participating today. I appreciate you being here and being interested in learning more about how to create great websites here at UCSC. And with that, we'll say thanks if you need to break out. And if you have questions you want to follow up with, there's a couple in about redirects in chat right now, and we'll hop into those right now. I'm going to